First of all, I would like to ask you. I would like to make this time together a very easy and collaborative time. So please, if you have anything to add, if you have any questions or anything, please, uh, you can interrupt me. You can send on the chat. I am with the chat open here as well, so I can see it. Ludmila will help me as well. So let's try to make this as collaborative and a sharing experience as possible, okay? So the subject I'm bringing today is elevating front-end projects with monitoring. This is a subject I have started studying a few years ago when I was working in a project. I was in another company, not AC, and I was working in a project that we had a very, not bad, but a not very good front-end project. We were working with Angular at the time, Angular 2 or 4, I don't remember as well. I don't remember very well the version, but the project itself was the performance was not good at all. We had a lot of errors, and we had very little visibility of what was really going on in this project. So I started uh, looking for this kind of subject. I started working with some tools. When I started studying this subject was not very um, hype in the market yet. We didn't have many tools, so now we have much more. I will present some tools to you as well. So, um, talking a little bit about me very fast, I work in AvenueCode since December 2022, and I'm working as a front-end engineer. I have been working as a front-end engineer for the last 6 years, but I have a lot of experience in other languages. I have been working since 2009, so I have been through a lot of projects, a lot of challenges. So what I'm trying to bring here is something I am still learning. I'm still researching and learning more as I want to become more of a front-end specialist. So a little the topics we are going to talk about today. I'm going to start to bring you some context about the front-end development state, very uh, high-level information, just to bring you some context of why front-end projects are getting more and more complex each day. Um, some key concepts of these monitoring words, just some key concepts, because we have like many concepts there, but the goal of this presentation is not to make you specialists in monitoring, but just for you to have a taste of this, and maybe you can search and you can research more later. I'll talk about some monitoring tools, and I will show you one of the monitoring tools in a project I have running. I would like to talk a little bit and make a reflection about the perception of quality. What is actually quality in the vision of the user? And how monitoring can lead a project or a team to innovation. Those are the main topics I want to talk here today. So let's start talking a little bit about how the front-end development market or scenario is growing, and why it is so important for us to really invest more time having monitoring tools and having all these things covered so we can have a better front-end project. Um, the complexity is growing each day. So when we are making the architecture of front-end project, we have to consider many aspects. It's not some years ago it was just HTML and CSS or maybe a PHP or something like that, but today we have a lot of things to consider. We have to consider caching, we have to consider performance, we have to consider translation, we have to consider how we're going to deploy that. where we are going to deploy that, and many other aspects when we are thinking about a front-end project. We have many tools. So the tooling is increasing absurdly. There are so many tools. It's like crazy when you try to understand all of them, or at least part of them. It's crazy how much, how many tools we have today, and um, more all of those aspects, the complexity and the tooling demands more specialized developers. We need to specialize more. We need to study more. We need to become more aware of many other areas that some years ago it was not necessary. So the first question I would like to bring here, and you may answer or not if you want. You can answer in the chat. Um, how complex do you think front-end development is nowadays? Is it, of course, I just said it is complex, but I would like to learn from you your vision, because sometimes I am a front-end developer, so I understand better, but what is the vision you have as maybe a Java developer or Python developer or someone that works with data science or anything like that? Giovanni said it's complex, but it's kind of easier sometimes too. Nice. Maybe it's easier because you like it more, right? Because great. Well, if you want to answer later as well, please you be my guest. But actually, I'm working now in a project. Uh, Recently, we did a change in our project to work with in a monorepo solution using NX. I don't know if you ever heard of it. And although it's a very good solution, is a very good software, a very good package to use there to control the monorepo solution, it is also very complex. It's complex to use. The complexity of our project, the developer experience, is much more complex now than it was 2 months ago. And the same way, we are using other libraries and other stuff. We are using GraphQL. So not only I have to learn GraphQL, uh, I have to understand how it works. We are also using React Query, which is another giant library that we have to understand how it works to get the most of it. So it's huge and it's complex. In our project, we are using GitHub Actions. So the GitHub Actions will run all the tests and run some validations and then deploy everything. So do you see how many things just one front-end project is tackling? So GitHub Actions, I have to learn a little bit about DevOps. I have to learn a little bit about database and backend to use a little bit of GraphQL. So we have to learn a lot of other stuff to become better front-end developers. Um, but more complex front-end projects will, of course, create more bugs, more problems. So it's very common for us, not this message, of course, because this message is like from the old times, but it's very common for us in any sort of project we are using in front end. Maybe we have those unexpected errors. And those unexpected errors, they are like the nightmare for the users because they don't know what it is. Maybe they will try again in a few minutes and it will work, but probably not. So that's like a nightmare. I say for myself because when I'm using something and I just have a like unexpected error, it's very it's very common to have those errors when we are using the government tools, the government websites to maybe get some time booked to get something. So it's very common for us to have those kind of errors. So the more complex and robust an application is, more error prone it might be. It might be, not at least. Yeah, Giovanni said at least it's showing the error. Yeah, sometimes not even the error is going to be displayed for the user. But when I say error here, I am saying an expected behavior, right? Because when we have an error, but we treat that error, we have an exception handling for that error, it's better. The experience for the user is less terrifying when we just have something that will blow up everything and the user will not know what to do next. So everything I am saying until now, it's to bring to this point. Why should I care about monitoring my front-end app? Um, why should I care? For the reasons I just said, because we need our project, our application to have quality, traceability, be um, it must be easy to improve, and we must have a response time, a good response time. So I need my application to have a good quality, especially in this market. There's a lot of competitivity. There's a lot of competition, a lot of people doing the same thing, and when you don't give something good and with good quality for the user, the user will just move to your competitor. Um, Traceability. So we need to have when we have problems, because every software has problems. It's not possible. I think it's impossible to have a software that will have no problems at all. Uh, we need to have all the information, all the possible information there for us to understand the problem, understand the variables, and reproduce that problem and fix it. Um, there is always room to improve an application. So when you learn how the user is using your application, what are the bottlenecks of that application, it's easier for you to improve. It's used for you to uh, show your user you are really improving, and you are giving something to the user that the user really needs and wants. Because sometimes we spend a lot of time developing features that the user will never or hardly ever use. And the response time, because when we have an application being correctly monitored, it's much easier to have a good response time. We can solve a bug, we can fix something, especially in production, especially if it's something that is blocking everything. We can have a faster response time, and that's very important, and it's crucial for the quality and, of course, the perception of quality of the user. So a few key concepts there that I'm trying to explain to you. So uh, we have this concept of observability. Observability itself, it's not a technique, or it's not a tool itself. Observability is the ability to understand and monitor a complex system. So when you can understand how it behaves, you can understand how things are working inside of it, and you know where the data is coming from, where the data is going, how the user is using the application. And it involves capturing, analysis, and interpretation of those metrics. So observation is like a discipline. It's like something higher that involves monitoring. When we have a well-implemented observability approach, we can get more complete and a more complete and accurate view of the system in real time. So observability is something that we must think since the beginning of every project, not only front end, but back end and everything else. We have to have this in mind, that the system must be observable, that we have to make it possible for the future devs, for or the future us, to add some tools there that will be able to get that information for us. Monitoring is something inside observability. So it's the process itself of collecting and analyzing the data. So um, when we have a monitoring tool, we have this monitoring tool collect information for us. We are not doing anything actively, but we are passively receiving information. So the problems and the failures of the application can be identified much quickly, and we can deal with that in a much easier and faster way. So again, with monitoring, you can identify issues and failures quickly, and allowing the development team to act promptly to correct those errors. We can also get very valuable information about the system utilization and how to improve to meet users' needs. There's a process that is very known in the companies and the development teams, which is M&A, monitoring and evaluation, which is basically this process of collecting that information and evaluating that information. So we can have a specific tool collecting that information for me, and I will have a team or a professional or someone to evaluate that and take the actions, the necessary actions to address the problems or to even address the improvements and how to get that application better. This process helps organizations to identify what is working and what is not working, and how to improve their applications and their projects. Okay. And another key concept here is telemetry. I don't know if that's how we say in English. I think it's telemetry. Um, it's the action of collection, transmission, and analysis of real time from the remote devices or system. So this is a very key role when we are talking about monitoring and observability. So here, telemetry is more like the action itself of collecting that information. Um, what devices we are going to use, what tools we are going to use. So it's something, um, it's a very easy comparison here. Telemetry is like a phone. Your device is used to tell how they are feeling. They send information to you to let you know if they are working or not. It's like a doctor that checks your pulse to see how you're doing. So telemetry helps you to understand how things are going and gives you the health of your system, of your application in real time. So basically, if we think of those concepts, is like observability is the thing that is wrapping everything, is the ability of having an application or a system being observed. The monitoring is getting the information that we need to get some useful data for us to take actions on a specific problem or improvement. And telemetry are the tools we are using, are the devices we are using for us to get all the information that we need for the monitoring and the observability as well. Okay, so those are very high level concepts. I'm not going to deep dive much more on those. And I'm going to talk a little bit now about monitoring tools. So when we are talking about monitoring, there are main four things that we can get information from. When we are trying to monitor a specific system, we are getting errors, logs. We want to know about performance or usage. So those are the main things that we try to get when we are monitoring a system. So errors, it's pretty obvious, just about the information of the errors that are happening in your system. The logs, so sometimes we have logs of important things that the user is doing or the system is doing, maybe something that is running automatically sometime in the day. Those are logs that we need to know how the system is doing its tasks. The performance, so page load time, image size, resource utilization, everything like that, it's performance. So this is very important because currently in our project we have some uh, queries that were running with in more than 10 seconds. They were taking like a lot of time, and the user was complaining a lot about it. So we needed to get the logs to know exactly where was the problem. It was not in the front end. It was not in the back end. It was in the GraphQL that was running a lot of queries, a lot of information from different endpoints, and getting everything together to send the information correctly to the front end. So with that information, we can find out what's the best approach for us to solve that specific problem. We also have information about usage. So information how the users are using our system, how they are interacting with our application. Maybe sometimes we create a feature and we think that the user will love that feature, that the user will use it all the time. And after you see the reports, you see that there was one user one time in 2 months, maybe. So those kinds of information, they are important for us to uh, improve our system and to really spend time working on the correct things. So I'm going to say just to mention here a few tools that some of them I have already worked with. Some of them I actually never worked with them, but I know they do their job. But we have several and several other uh, application that will do the same thing. Okay, so today pretty much is a matter of taste. It's a matter of I like working with Sentry more than I like working with Rollbar, for example. Okay, so tools for errors. We have, for example, Sentry and Rollbar. Um, for logs, we have LogRocket and Datadog. When I say Sentry is for errors, Sentry is not only for errors, it does a lot of other things as well. I just made a small research and tried to classify them for their strengths. So Sentry is better for error to log the errors, uh, and the Datadog and LogRocket are better to logs. And let's go on. For performance, we have Google Lighthouse, we have Web Page Test. For usage, we have Google Analytics, we have Mixed Panels. So those are tools that we have available in the market for us to use to try. There are many other tools. Okay, so I just brought you some for you to have an idea. Um, so probably in a project, in a front-end project, we will not use only one tool. We are probably going to use like Sentry for error logging, and maybe Datadog for logging other information, and maybe Google Analytics to get usage information. So we probably are going to use different kinds of tools for different kinds of information we need to get. Okay. So here I'm going to show a little bit about a project I have running. And I have some information to show you. So um, that's something that is very crucial, and it's also complex for us to understand the reports of the information we are receiving from those tools. Um, it's very important to have probably specialized professional to do so, because I will show you an example of the report, and it's not easy to understand. It's like there are lots of different concepts that we have to really study to understand them. So just 1 second, I will stop presenting for 1 second. Yeah, Barbara just said Lighthouse is excellent for accessibility. Yeah, it is. And for the ones that don't know, we have the Lighthouse integrated with Chrome DevTools. So we can run the accessibility tests, the responsiveness tests, everything in the Chrome DevTools. Let me just change here. Now, here. Um, I don't see you anymore, so if you have something, oh, if you have something, if you don't see the my page here, please tell me. Okay. What I'm showing here is the dashboard of my Sentry account. So I have a project running here. I have this project running for a few years. It's a side project. I have around 200 users for this project. And I have a lot of information here, some good information about the usage and about the error. So what I'm showing here is Sentry, just for you to know. It's very, very simple to integrate Sentry into your project. So when you go to the documentation, it's very simple. You just install the dependency in your project, and you just add some configuration information there, and it's ready to go. It already starts getting all the information and all the errors of your project. So here, when I start here, I have this. When I click on my project, I have this information. And as I told you, it's not something so easy to understand at the first sight. We have to really uh, understand what each information is trying to show me here. So, for example, this project, we have a lot. I have a lot of failure rate. For example, it's not good. But as this is a side project, is not something I have a lot of time to do. So kind of I don't care much about the failure rate, because other things are working fine. And but this is not a very good uh, measure as well, because not only I have this failure rate, but I have to understand what are those failures. Maybe they are failures that are not affecting the user, the end user. They are just showing some silent errors, maybe. So I have to understand. So I have other concepts here, like AppDex. What the hell is that? So I have to understand what is this. What is this concept? What is this concept trying to show me, and what this number means? So that's why I told you we need to study. We need to study a lot to understand what are those problems. So, for example, here I have an issue, and this is an unhandled issue. I have new issues here, issues that just happened, and I didn't take any action on them yet. So, for example, this is this is very common for the ones that work with React. They probably know that. I'm trying to filter something that is undefined. And it's very interesting here, because I have all the information I need. I have the browser and the version of the browser I was using. I have the system, the operational system. I have a lot of other informations here. Um, I have a lot of other stuff, and I have the trace, the breadcrumbs, what it's saying. So I have all the information here that happened before this error happened. So this is very important as well. Uh, I didn't uh, I didn't do this in my project, but I have this session replay that basically it will get the information. It will get a small video of the user interface when that error happened. I didn't test this, so I don't know exactly how it works. But as you can see, we have a lot of information for just one small error. So I can have here a lot of other integrations as well. And another thing I would like to show you is this performance part. So Sentry also has this performance analytics, this performance reports for us. And again, we have a lot of concepts here that we have to understand, like LCP, FCP, INP, CLS. We have a lot of those, and we have to understand what are those concepts trying to tell us. Okay, so for example, this is very interesting information because I have best page opportunities or pages to improve your performance score. So here I can see that my initial page of my project is not very good. I have a lot of problems. I have a lot of time for the first byte. Um, I have, and you can see here, it is classifying that information good or meh. So this is very, very rich information for us to understand what we can do better for each one of the pages. Uh, and here we have a lot of another interesting thing I think in here in Sentry, that's this concept here, user misery. So it means that my users are very miserable when they are opening this initial page, and they are getting less miserable as they are going to the other pages. So this is very interesting. So if I think about the product, of course, this is something I need to work with. I need to understand what the problems are, and I need to improve that experience, my user experience here, because this is not very good. And we have a lot of other things here as well. I'm not going to enter into any of these because otherwise I would be just showing this for hours for you. So I just would like to show you that we have that information and we have some tips and some directions of what we should be working in our project to get a better quality and a better experience for our users. I will go back to my presentation now. Okay. So next, now I am going to bring a reflection for you. Actually, it's not something so objective as monitoring and the reports, but it's something I would like for us to, even if you can, bring some insights for me about this. I would be really glad. Is the perception of quality. This is perception of quality is not something very objective. Of course, we have information like page load time. We have information about how much time is taking for the user to do a specific action or something like that. This is objective. But the perception of quality or perception of performance of from the user is something that is a little more subjective. It's not as simple as a number, especially when we are thinking about front-end development. We have many variables to deal with. So the client uh, is working in a specific browser with a specific connection in a specific device, and we have a specific user. So we have all that information that differs from user to user, from scenario to scenario. So if we have any other front-end developers here, we know that, for example, Internet Explorer is a horrible browser to work with. Thank God Internet Explorer is dying, so probably will not even hear from it in a while. Um, but we have other problems as well. Some maybe the user is using a browser that is outdated, that is it doesn't have a specific support for something that we are trying to do in our project. That's very common. Maybe the user is not working in a very good connection, in a high speed connection. Maybe the user is working with a slow 3G connection or something like that. Uh, because sometimes the user is using that application, your application, in the middle of a farm. I don't know. Uh, there's the devices. Not all the users is using the latest iPhone. They have different kinds of devices, of smartphones or computers or anything like that. And the user itself, because the user can be a pro in technology, or the user can be a total noob in technology, and that's okay. But we have to understand that this will affect the perception of quality and the perception of quality that user will bring to us. Uh, and monitoring makes it easier for us to get that information and to understand the the whole scenario that user is trying to bring to us. Um, and a question I'm bringing here is what is the user perception of a good application? Is it a fast application? Is it an application with no errors? Is it an application that will uh, run in any device? So it depends, right? Um, we can have users that prefers a fast application, and it doesn't matter very much if there are some errors. But maybe there are users that prefers a less fast application, but with no errors. I don't know. Me, I have a different perception of a good application when I'm using an application, and I will bring that to you right now. Uh, but first, researchers suggest that 25% of people will abandon a website that takes longer than 4 seconds to load. I think that's quite an old information. I think it's less than 4 seconds. I think if it takes 2 or 3 seconds to load, people will just leave the page. It's crazy, but we are living in a society that needs everything very fast. So that's just a reflection of this behavior. And the average, there was a research. Actually, I didn't actually found that research. So I read an article and I brought this to you. So maybe that's wrong, but I think it's right. It brings a lot of information that really corresponds to what I understand of the reality. So 50K websites were evaluated in a research, and it was shown that the rendering time is 87% just in the client, so front end. Uh, less less than 13% was just back end, like queries, searches, and everything like that. So that's how important it is for us front end developers to care about making our application as better, as best as possible, especially considering performance. And then when we have that problem, we can have monitoring to the rescue. So we can really get information. We can really know what is the problem of our application. What is the bottleneck? What is happening? We can have those answers using monitoring and using the correct tools. And what I'm bringing to you, my perception of quality is something that is related to the next point is aspects of monitoring that leads to innovation. For me, a good application is an application that uh, innovates, that is always getting better, that is always getting uh, not necessarily new features, but they are getting what they have in a better way. So, for example, just a very silly example, I was using a software to control my finances a few years ago. I loved that software, but it was like it was nice in like 2010, but I used it for years, and there was no updates, nothing, like not even the layout of the application was changing. Everything kept the same, and that brought me a very bad sensation, a very bad perception of quality, because I just thought, this is like this project is dead. No one is using, no one is working with that. And then I changed it to another one, another application that is constantly improving, constantly doing improvements in the application, constantly solving errors. So I changed it a few years ago, and when I tried to do a specific kind of transaction, I had an error. So a few months later, I did the same thing, and there was no error anymore. So in my head, at least, they fixed the problem. So that's something that brings me the perception of that application is good because it's improving. And that's what I want to bring you. And the message here today is monitor will help you innovate, will help the innovation of your product, the innovation of your application. So some aspects here that we can consider that monitoring will give us. So identification of improvement opportunities, real-time user feedback, detecting emerging trends and patterns. I will not talk much about each one of them, okay, because we are running out of time. I would like to leave some minutes in the end for us to talk. Experimentation and continuous learning, advanced data analysis, and improve operational efficiency. So, with all those aspects, we can imagine, for example, for a product manager, a product owner, having this kind of information here, like identification of improvement opportunities, like, oh, look, our users are using and this page. This page is very bad. This page is taking a lot of time to load, or the users are spending a lot of time for a specific flow here. We can make it better. um, Detecting emerging trends and patterns, like our users are doing a lot of this specific action. What about we create another feature that will really, I don't know, help them to do that in a much smaller time, or even use some AI to help them to do that. I don't know. Um, all those informations will help us to build a better product. And the final message I want to leave you with is monitoring can really drive innovation by providing invaluable insights, real-time feedback, and continuous learning opportunities for the product, the development, and the operations processes. Integrating monitoring as an integral part of the development cycles, teams can create an environment conducive to innovation and continuous improvement. So that's the message I want to leave you. Um, think about monitoring when you are thinking about your next projects, or maybe you are working in a current project that has no monitoring tool. Think about it. I am sure that those informations will be very invaluable for your team. Maybe you will spend some time configuring stuff. Maybe you will spend some time understanding those reports. but I don't like to say that it's spending, because I think it's investing, because you're going to get some time now, but in the future you can have much more valuable information and return of this investment time you spent on. And this can really drive us to innovation. And I think us as consultants, um, we are working in our clients. I think this is very important for us to know and to bring for our clients. Like, let's think about monitoring. Let's think of bringing this to our clients, and maybe we will get really, really good results in the long term. Not only the long term, but short, middle, and long term. That's it. I thank you all for staying. Um, I try to shorten this information, all those informations. I made a lot of research, but it's very, very, it's a huge, huge word of monitoring, and I try to make it as simple as possible for you just to take a little sneak peek on this monitoring part. And if you have something to bring, some experience or some doubt or anything, I think we have some time, right, Ludmila?
Yes, we have a time. So, guys, you can um, hands up your or send on chat your questions. So before, thank you very much, Adriano, for sharing with us this content. It's a very, very good pleasure to listen you. So now, guys, it's your time to interact with Adriano. Go ahead.
Yeah, I do have a question. I want to know how was your feeling when you first integrated the observability tools? I recall that how it was for me, because it was a running project. So I just want to hear from you.
Yeah, when I did it the first time, it was um, a little bit of, maybe the word is traumatizing to do everything, because um, first of all, it's very easy to configure. It's very easy to plug and play, but the amount of information those tools are collecting and bringing us, it's very hard to understand what to do with that, because they're collecting everything. So if you just plug and play Sentry in your application, it will log like every single error, every small thing in your application, and it's hard to filter that. So you have to understand the passing this first trauma, this first scary moment. Uh, we have to understand and really configure those tools. When I really stopped some time to understand and to learn about Sentry, it was easier. That project I have there, it's just a personal project I run outside work. It's a voluntary stuff, so I didn't take much care of configuring things. But when I first did it, I did in a client's project, and I really took my time to understand things and to configure that correctly. So I think that the key is that it's not something you just can't put there and forget. You have to feed that configuration, you have to feed those tools, and you have to configure everything to your needs.
Yeah, exactly.
But
I think on my experience, there was the same thing as you. Like I got surprised because first I applied in a small commercial project, which I thought that was as perfect as it could be. Then I was surprised for the amount of errors that has shown. So I was like,
yeah,
how's that? And a couple of them, like from the framework, from a couple libraries, something that was not related actually to my project, I would say, but it happened. And I must say that I would always be afraid to set up that in like for a real like huge project in a client that I don't have like much confidence on it, because I know how many information that can provide. So that's what I wanted to share about it. Thank you.
Yeah, that's true. The first uh, I had the same experience. The first time I didn't think it was as bad as it was. I knew it was bad. The performance was bad and everything, but it was worse than I thought. So, um, but that's a good thing actually, because we as developer we don't have the user's perspective, and when we are using those tools, we can get that perception, we can get that information, and it's not as easy as doing a usability test, for example, because a usability test, you are in a controlled environment, you are in a controlled network, and etc. But when we are collecting information in real time, we are getting like many different scenarios that we never imagined. Like maybe a user will try to access my application with a very slow connection.
Mhm.
I don't know.
And it's important to remind that what I recall at least is that we do not need to fix everything. Like that's
Yeah,
kind of impossible. Like it's important to read all that and focus on what are the priorities and all that, because it's kind of impossible to fix everything, I guess. But I don't know.
exactly. Exactly, yeah. And especially because, for example, in Sentry, it is in my project there, it is logging everything, and there's a lot of errors there that those are silent errors. Something that will not affect at all the experience of the user. So I don't need to care for those errors in the first moment. I have to prioritize that, and those tools gives me the information I need to really understand what is more important.